So I've enabled record.
Great. So probably just let's keep it in mind that we need to record all the sessions. If it is 40 minutes, then accordingly, when the subsequent meetings are done, let's make sure that it's recorded.
Yeah, sure, Mahesh. Yeah. Thank you
Sure.
very much for that. Okay, so we were talking about a three-tier architecture on this. So so today, like I spin up a machine. I'm not sure so where you lost me. Otherwise, I just spinned up a machine, and then we were talking about a three-tier architecture. And then I was just drawing this picture just to help you understanding. So what do you mean by three-tier architecture, which we will be mostly discussing in our sessions. Very extremely simple example we will be taking. And of course, enterprise layer will be having multiple layers. Now, if you look at the web servers, we have multiple packages, tools available in the market. One is Apache, Nginx, IAS, to name few, which are leader in the market in the web server area from the open source market. IAS, of course, from Microsoft. Now, the second layer we will be from mostly from the Java world. There are a lot of application servers available. So in our sessions, we will be trying to use one lightweight application server called Tomcat. Otherwise, at enterprise layer, we have JBoss, WebLogic, WebSphere. List is very big from the Java world, or IA is also having it. Even though like it's not having a three-tier architecture, but you'll be having a .NET framework, which will be mostly will be using in the IAS platform. And then this will be connecting to a DB layer. The DB, the list is very big again anyway. We have Arkel and then MS SQL, Microsoft SQL, Sybase, etc. Yeah. So now, so if you look at this app server, this is the most fat layer because most of the processing will be happening here. Different ports we just will be available, which will be listening on by different application servers, and then the same thing applies to DB layer, and also the web server layer. You'll be seeing some ports called HTTP and HTTPS. These are some of the ports or protocols you'll be hearing multiple times in our sessions. So HTTP will be listening on 80, and then HTTPS and 443. Coming to app layers, different port again protocols available. For example, we also have HTTP available here, and then HTTP is also there. AJP protocol is also there. AJP 1.3, etc. So each will be listening on different port numbers. Database anyway, it is out of scope for us. So this is something which mostly will be managed by the DB experts, database administrations here. Now, on top of this, you also will be might be hearing few things called like load balancer, which we'll be discussing. Load balancers. So this generally comes under network part, managed by different network teams, and then which will be again connecting to the web layer here. Now we're all for the whoever, in case if you are not from the infra background or application support engineering background, so you might be hearing for the first time all these things. Or if you're already having some cloud knowledge and infra background guys or application support engineering, you might be already familiar, already worked on different things here. So feel free to stop me just in case if you're having any questions on these things. Now, why are we using this word called layer? That is the first question. Probably will be popping up at you right now at this moment. So when I say layer, web layer, app layer, DB layer, what it means to us is that inside that layer, it is very high chances that you might be having multiple machines to support the user base. For example, take an example, an application called Google. It's just a search engine. We really don't know what is the architecture of that particular application, but when we hit http://google.com, it is hitting their web servers via load balance and all that stuff. Now, this particular Google is used by millions of users across different regions, different locations. So a single machine cannot support the load. So that could be the reason. They probably might have configured different zones, let's say domain like google.co.in for Indian community or Indian market. Similarly, for US, it is probably google.com or UK, google.co.uk. So that is their architecture, their enterprise architectures. Now, within this domain, again, they will be having multiple machines. So because each machine only can handle certain number of users and traffic, etc. So that is the reason we are calling this as like a layer here. Same thing applies to your app layer as well. Depending on the user base, so those number of machines will be configured and all this stuff. Database anyway, autoscope, we are not going to discuss anything on that. But again, a database also, when I say layer, yeah, we'll be having a master and then we'll be having some slave nodes in the DB architecture. Nowadays, of course, that is also changed. So you'll be having a PaaS services, SaaS services when we're trying to connect to the DB connection string. Now, you're not going to set up so many machines to understand this thing. So the agenda will be that we will be trying to set up all this in one machines for now. DB, not DB, but at least load balancers and app servers. And then I'll try to discuss what is the need for load balancer and what it is exactly, and then how to set up that in our AWS. So idea is that how to set up a sample, extremely simple application in our cloud platform. So let me go to my console again here, wherein we spin up one machine here, or one EC2 machine we have spinned up here, and then I logged into this machine here. Just restarting this machine. So the web service is already installed, which we downloaded from the Amazon repository. We will be discussing how to download and how to use some build tools called Make, which is like, because HTTP is a package which is developed in C++. So then in the process, we'll try to understand what do you mean by build and what do you mean by creating a binaries from the source code. Hey guys, like some people who are not talking, just go on mute. Yeah. Thank you. So service STBD start. I've started the web services here. So when I do ps-ef trip STBD, this is basically this command just to understand whether this process is up and running or not. So process list, BSS process list, -e expanding that particular stuff, and filter grep for HTTP port. So this service is running. Now this is your the parent ID, and these are all child processes. So web services running on different MPMs, which we'll talk about later. So in case if I want to find out on which port this is listening, we can use this command called netstat. So you can use DNLP or plan anything. Pipe grep this process ID. So this is listening on port 80. HTTPD is a package which is listening on port 80. And how many ports generally a single machine will be having? 2 to the power of 16. Might have learned long back, 65,535 ports, out of which 0 to 1024 ports are reserved for internal OS purpose. 80 is the port which is like falling in that bracket, because across the globe, HTTP is a protocol, hypertext transmission protocol, which is listening on port 80. Now, we also have a public IP for this machine, right? Because we provided a public IP. This is our public IP. So if I go and access my web service using this public IP, anyone can access. Even I can access my web services through my open internet, right? Through mobile also I can access now using this IP now. So this is my test space. Apache's web services listening on this thing and running perfectly here. So now let's talk about the little bit about this Apache version. So what is the version we are using here? Here we are using 2.4.46 edition. Little background about these particular web services. So open source market, you might have heard about it. What do you mean open source? Anybody can download it at no cost, and we can use it for commercial uses, or you can redistribute. So this is owned by Apache.org. But I've heard about it. This is a foundation. So just in case if you're interested, you can go to Wikipedia to understand about this Apache foundation, because you'll be hearing this multiple times. So Apache's software for stuff and all these things. So you can go through all this foundation details also. So Apache's software foundation. Spend some time just so what do you mean by that and all this stuff. So in case if you're interested, you can go through this stuff. Now coming back to our exercise, this is our server edition 2.4.46. I want to find out more details about this particular package called HTTP. So I'm using capital V. It says that this is server edition, this is build, all that stuff. Now this is the npm it uses, multi-process module. So I was just talking about that one parent and multiple childs, right? So this is one parent, and these are all multiple child processes. So if you look at the third column talks about the parent ID. So this is a parent ID. So this is like pre-fork npm. Pre-fork npm means so multi-process module wherein you have different childs which will help to share the traffic which is receiving and processing by this HTTP web services. So you also will be seeing a worker npm, wherein in case of this npm, pre-fork npm, we have seen it here. This npm here, one child will process only one request, or like it's not non-threaded. That is the reason somewhere it will be mentioned. Yeah, in the next line only they mention, right? Threaded is no. So that means that whenever a request comes, the parent will hand over that to the child, one of the child which is free, which will process your request. So in the worker npm model, a child will handle multiple requests. For example, I'll give you one real-time example. So if it is a Twitter kind of applications, it's a lightweight applications, but millions of requests will come to the Twitter. To handle that process, so this kind of pre-fork kind of npm is not suitable. So what they do, they generally will change that to the worker npm, wherein each child will handle multiple requests, and then now the waiting period, the queue period will be now reduced. So you have that advantage with that. But again, you have to have resource availability, CPU memory utilization also should be considered when we try to change that to the worker npm. So that's a little bit about inside about the web services architecture, just to give you an idea. I've just introduced that particular thing here. Now, what do you mean by these things? The server compile instance. So these are the modules through which this particular program was compiled. But it was compiled by whom? It is not you and me. It was compiled by, I think, Amazon. They kept this package in their repository. So in real time, when the client uses this web services, right? In case if they are using Apache, of course, this is a very popular web server. Millions of websites uses this Apache. So they may say that, hey, we don't want to use this Apache package which you downloaded from Amazon, but why don't you download from the original source and then build our own web server using some modules which is required by that application. So how do we do that? So I'll just demonstrate. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to download the HTTP package. We just now discussed it is a free open source software, right? So just search for it, download HTTP. So when you search for it, you will be routed to this repository, download. So here you can look at the different versions in the download section. So I'm just going to the archive download site. So probably look for some little older edition. I don't want to have a latest edition. This is just for demonstration purposes. So 2.2.3 tar. So in Linux, so this tar is like an archive, like a zip file. So I'm just copying this link. So I'm just downloading.
नहीं वो भी हो जाएगा यार न्यूज़ अभी तो कल ही ये मीटिंग है
people who are not, can you go on?
Guys, please go on mute if in case because it's troubling the class. Can you please go on mute, everyone?
Yeah, thank you. So here we creating a folder called software. So go to the software folder. In Linux, this command is called wget and paste the link, which is downloading this particular source code. What do you mean by source code? This program called HTTPD, somebody written, I think probably in a language. So because I know which language it was written, all these things, I also know what is the compiler for that. It was written in C++. You can look at the Wikipedia and the documentation. You'll be knowing that stuff. So I'll extract this particular zip file and then I'll download the compiler. So global C compiler, GCC, I'll download. Also, I know that we need few more packages called Perl compatibility runtime environment. So I'll download the request packages and then I'll compile. So when I'm talking to the client, I'll also will have a discussion with him. Hey, what are the modules you need while compiling this source code? So he'll be providing me those inputs. If it is a service sector, if it is a product company, we'll be talking to the developers. And then we'll be trying to find out, hey, you probably develop these applications, right? So you want me to set up a web server for us. So why don't you share me all the modules which is required by your application? So those details I'll be collecting, and then this is a process wherein I'll download the package and then extract. While compiling, I'll supply them as an argument. Now I need a build tool. So there are different build tools available, such as like Make, Maven. So what do you mean by build?
Raghu, sorry to interrupt there.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that you can put these what do you call wget paths on the chat box? So if in case these guys want to do it parallelly, they can do it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So I'll take this history command, and now probably like of course you don't need all those commands. So from 23 you can collect. So what I'll do, I'll just copy this thing and put there in the chat. So every day, because most of our sessions are practical sessions, I'll be sharing these commands with you. feel free to make a note and then do practice also even after the sessions. Thank you. Collected all those commands. So I downloaded this particular zip file of close to 6 MB. So Linux, how do you extract the tar file? tar-xzbf. You can use this command. And then you might be also having a doubt. So we are doing all this in Linux. Can I also do this in Windows server? Answer is yes. It's because this open source code, like which is written in C++, we do the same thing. We download this zip file in a Windows server. We'll extract, and then we'll use a C compiler to compile this thing and then create a binary. So I extracted this, like extract is nothing but like unzip, right? So I use this tar command to extract that, and this folder came in right now as soon as we extracted this stuff. So I'm going to the folder to see what is there inside that. This is actually the program. So contributed with the community, open source. As it's all about no employees and everything. No one will be there. It's all like contributed by the community. There will be some members across the globe will be contributing for the development of these kind of packages. So you also might be having a question that why they are doing all these things. So this is again a big story, but in a very short words. So there was a person who actually started this kind of movement to stop this monopoly from enterprise giants. Those days, like Microsoft, Novel Network, and then so these are some of the companies. So they were actually doing a monopoly in the market. So there was no competition for them in terms of open source, in terms of any other products like web servers, browsers, etc. So that is when you might have heard about those keys suited the US court, and then they asked to share the open source, but they were not ready. So they started this kind of movement, open source movement, so that because all this intellectual property should not be restricted to only few companies or few people. Today, DevOps is all about the evaluation of this open source tools. So this will be the future. Today, even if you look at Kubernetes, it's again open source. So Docker, open source. Everything, every package is open source. So the contribution from across the community globally is really this really boosting this open source market comparatively with your enterprise areas in enterprise products. And so anyway, that's a different the other side of the coin, the business dynamics. But those who are new to open source, what do you mean open source? Just to give you an idea. Now come back to our topic. So we extracted this folder HTTPD here inside this thing. Now this is a program. Anyway, OS will not understand any program, right? Which we have learned in our primaries. So we have to convert this into binaries because OS only will understand in binaries. So we need some compiler because I know that this is written in C++. Let me install some of those packages. Let me install -y GCC global C compiler. And then also I need Perl compatibility runtime development package as well. And then we also need OpenSSL development. Also to compile, to build, I need make2. So I'm just downloading this make. All these packages are available in the repository. From internet, from Amazon repository, I'm downloading all these packages here. So once it is downloaded, now I am good to start compiling. So I refer the documentation. So just in the interest of time, I'm not actually going to all that stuff. Otherwise, I have to visit the website and then how to compile. Sequentially, they'll be providing the steps. So there is a script available called configure here. So /configure. So if I really don't know how to execute their stuff, so I try to do help. So /configure help will provide me all the options. So what are the modules I can supply as an argument to compile this program? So I'm trying to just yeah, go ahead. You have any questions for me?
Yeah, the voice is still breaking, Raghu, in the sense it's dropping and coming back at times. It seems like an internet issue. Doesn't seem to be an issue with the software. Of course, it is much better in Zoom, but I would still say it is quite disturbing.
Okay.
Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I am getting the issue. I just wanted to voice it out.
Yeah, we lost the last 2-3 minutes.
Okay, this is strange. Okay, 1 second. Let me just switch the net as well. 1 second. Can you just hold for a minute? Less than a minute. Yeah.
Sure, Raghu. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm back with a different network. So can you hear me now?
Sure, Raghu, we're able to hear you, and we'll voice it out if in case there is a drop.
Okay. So it looks like now there are two issues. One is the meeting link, and one is net.
Yeah, yeah. So the last package installation list, right? Should we just paste it in chat anyways? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I think it's the GCC one. I don't think it is the list of software which
okay.
You installed. Yeah.
Yeah, because we got disconnected. That is the session went out. But we got a new session. So let me just put that in the chat. Yeah, I just pasted that.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, we were talking about so installing those prerequisites. Now we have all those packages installed, which I've just mentioned in the chat. So global C compiler and as well as OpenSSL development, and then Perl compatibility runtime environment, and then as well as that make. So we'll be spending some time when the build topic comes in our sessions later, but because I'm just letting you know that make is a build tool which will help us to convert mostly this C, C++ kind of programs into binaries. Okay, so now we got this source code. So I refer the documentation, and then I was told that no, this /configure script has to be triggered, which will help us to check whether we have all the packages extracted properly or not, or available inside our this particular folder. And also it will prepare a notes so that in the next step, there are 3 steps basically: configure, make, install. So in the make step, so it will try to actually compile based on the output created by this first step. Now we got those documents and files, that make files, to start compiling. So I've done configure, and then now I'll use this particular build tool called make, which will actually do the compiling part. So what do you mean by compiling? The source code is whatever which is available. So it will refer that particular source code, and then it will create the actual package which will run only on this machine. So when I said this machine means this flavor of Linux. So this particular package, which is now we are creating, can I also use this particular entire package, which is a binary package, in a Windows machine? Answer is no, because this is not a platform independent way of building a package. So that is a reason later in the future, so this make was actually not is very popular, and then they moved on to the different build tool called ANT. You might have heard, some people might have heard. So that is the first step. It took that the package which is actually created going forward using that and is a platform independent kind of packages. So which means the binaries now, we don't need to run on each and every operating system. We can copy only the binaries to other machines, which is like platform independent. Okay, so what are the 2 things we did? We did configure by executing this way ./configure, and then we did make. So this last 19 and 21 steps. So let me put that in the chat as well. Okay. So now finally we'll do the installation part, that is make space install, because we created the binaries and all these things. So that particular thing will be now installed on our respective folder, because I have not supplied any folder that where it has to copy and install. So by default, it install under USR local Apache 2 folder. So that's okay. Yeah. So let me go to that folder, USR local Apache 2 folder. Now this is actually the binaries which in our environment we will be using. When I say an environment, I'm talking about like from the business perspective, because we build this package based on our requirement. So of course, we used this extremely straightforward commands here, but in real time, we will be referring the modules, refer the documentation, supply those documentation, and build the packages. Interesting. So now we created this binaries, but here already one Apache web service is running, which we downloaded from Amazon repositories. Now, can I start this particular web server, which is there in this folder? Answer is yes. If you want, we can start, but this is already running. It is running on port number 80. So I cannot use the same port for this package, because by default, we know HTTP listens on port 80 only. So I have to change the port number, or I have to stop this particular stuff and then start it. So just for time being, I'll stop this one, the one which we downloaded from Apache, which is running in our memory. I'm stopping this service. And then this is the one which we built. So I'm going to bin directory where there is a startup script available to start this particular service called Apache CTL. So /Apache CTL space start. Because I have not set up any environment variable, I'm just actually starting this particular process. Now check it out whether this particular process is running or not. Yeah, this is running. So this is the other Apache which we downloaded from the portal. Just go to the browser. Now refresh, see whether this is listening or not. So you should get another home page. It works. I mean, something like this home page. So the people who are familiar with IRE website, Indian Railway website, sometimes whenever there is an issue with that application, we used to see this kind of message. Of course, now it is stabilized. That's a different story. I'm talking about dedicated. So interesting, right? So now we have two Apache editions. One I have stopped. One, this is right now running. Can I also start the other Apache instance? By the way, guys, I think my Zoom is now getting this thing. So, much like what we do, shall we go back to our WebEx because I have changed the internet?
Yep, we could try. Or you want to complete this session today in this?
Okay. So, and then I'll just let me restart this same link. So try to rejoin the same link once again. I'll start the same meeting once again.
Guys, everyone has the link?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry for that. Yeah. So let me just end this meeting.